Stephanie White has just cost the Indiana Fever yet another winnable game, and what she pulled off in the final moments will make your blood absolutely boil. Because this isn't just about one bad decision, it's about a coach who is single-handedly dragging down Caitlin Clark's legacy right before our eyes. I've been watching Stephanie White closely all season, and I am more convinced than ever that she has no clue what she's doing, while others keep making excuses for her. I'm going to show you why she is the absolute worst coach for this team, why her choices are destroying the Fever from the inside, and why fans should be demanding her firing immediately, because last night against the Dallas Wings exposed everything wrong with her coaching. And the truth is, the Fever deserves so much better than this circus. When the Fever went up against Dallas, it should have been a night to build momentum, because just one game earlier, this team looked unstoppable. Kelsey Mitchell and Sophie Cunningham were running the offense beautifully. The ball was moving, the chemistry was undeniable. Everything clicked and they walked away with a win. But then, Stephanie White threw that entire formula straight into the trash. She completely abandoned what worked and handed the keys to Odyssey Sims, a player who hadn't been on a roster all season long and looked out of shape from the moment she checked in. 13 minutes of disaster, 4 missed shots, careless turnovers, a -4 impact, and instead of correcting the mistake, White doubled down, keeping Sims on the floor, while her best defender, Lexi Hull, sat helplessly on the bench, watching this train wreck unfold. This wasn't bad luck, this wasn't a rough night, this was Stephanie White choosing ego over common sense. She would rather lose forcing her system than win by trusting what actually works, and that's why Fever fans are furious. Now, let's talk about what truly exposes Stephanie White's utter lack of judgment: her rotations. She's constantly yanking Lexi Hull, their best perimeter defender, in and out of the lineup for no apparent reason. This is a player who can lock down anyone, make smart decisions on both ends of the floor, and when she's confident, she's unstoppable. But White, for whatever reason, treats her like a scrub, like she doesn't matter, and consistently benches her in crucial moments. Meanwhile, White continues to give minutes to players who simply do not fit this team's needs. It's like she's making moves just to prove a point, not to win games. Take Odyssey Sims, she's hostile to Clark, she's not a fit for this system, and yet White keeps giving her chances, completely ignoring the chemistry that's already been established on the floor with Mitchell, Cunningham, and Hull. It's a mess, and everyone sees it. And let's not ignore the biggest crime of all: how Stephanie White is coaching Caitlin Clark out of her greatness. Clark is a generational talent, one of the most revolutionary players we've ever seen. But instead of letting her do what she does best, take risks, make the impossible passes, and shoot from anywhere, White is trying to turn her into a boring, safe point guard who never takes chances. It's like telling Stephen Curry to stop shooting from deep because it's a low percentage shot. Those risky passes, they're not mistakes, they're what make Clark special. But White is so obsessed with her outdated system that she's willing to diminish Clark's talent just to make things easier for herself. And the worst part, Clark respects White, she trusts this process. But instead of embracing her unique style of play, White is brainwashing Clark into thinking that playing it safe is the key to success. Every game, White continues to make rotation decisions that don't make any sense. She pulls hot players who are on fire, leaves cold players in during critical moments, and shows zero understanding of game flow. The Dallas game? That was peak White stupidity. Lexi Hull, the team's best defender, was on fire, shutting down opponents and making smart plays. But what does White do? She keeps Odyssey Sims on the floor, while Hull watches from the bench. And when Hull finally gets her chance in the fourth quarter, guarding Paige Becker's one-on-one, she completely shuts her down, turning the game around. The Fever fought back from a 17-point deficit, brought it within 1, but did White learn from her mistakes? She continued to make substitutions that killed momentum and used timeouts at the worst possible moments. It's like she has no feel for the game, no understanding of the ebb and flow. This isn't coaching, it's chaos. Let's be clear about who Stephanie White really is as a coach. Her track record speaks for itself. At Vanderbilt, she was a disaster, with a 46-83 record over 5 years. At UConn, they gave her 2 seasons and then moved on, realizing she wasn't the answer. Now, She's in Indiana, her third chance to prove she can coach at this level, and yet she's showing the same signs of failure that got her fired everywhere else. She's arrogant, thinking she's smarter than everyone else, but the results tell a completely different story. She's a mediocre coach who somehow keeps getting opportunities she hasn't earned. The worst part? The Fever's front office knew all this when they hired her. They saw her disastrous track record at Vanderbilt, they saw how UConn moved on from her, and yet they still thought she was the one to maximize Caitlin Clark's potential. That's not just a bad hire, it's a catastrophic one. Here's the reality. Stephanie White is systematically coaching the greatness out of Caitlin Clark, and that should terrify every Fever fan. Clark, in her recent interview, revealed how White has been pulling her from games just for making risky passes, something that made her famous. Clark actually smiled when she talked about not taking those chances anymore because White had gotten into her head about turnovers. This is a generational talent, and White's trying to turn her into something she's not, a shell of her former self. It's like telling a rock star to stop playing their greatest hits because they're too risky. Those risky passes are what made Clark the player she is. They're her superpower. But instead of letting Clark's talent shine, White is trying to tame her, trying to make her play a style that's safe but boring. And the worst part is, Clark is buying into it. Every game, White makes decisions that scream, "I have no clue what I'm doing." She pulls hot players who are in the zone and leaves cold players in at crucial moments. Just take the Dallas game, it was peak White idiocy. Lexi Hull was their best player on the floor, shutting down opponents and making smart plays. But White kept her benched, while Odyssey Sims, a player who hasn't even been on the roster all season, gets minutes. Sims missed shot after shot, turned the ball over, and ended the game with a -4 rating. But did White adjust? Number. She let Sims continue to fail while Hull sat and watched. A major asset to the team wasted on the bench. This isn't coaching, it's reckless. It's like watching someone sabotage their own team for no reason other than their own stubbornness. The bottom line is, Stephanie White is out of her depth, and it's becoming more and more clear that she's incapable of taking this team to the next level. The Fever have the talent, their roster has championship potential with players like Lexi Hull, Sophie Cunningham, Kelsey Mitchell, and Caitlin Clark. But under White's leadership, all that talent is being squandered. White's outdated coaching style is holding this team back. She's forcing a system that doesn't work in 2025, trying to control every aspect of the game instead of letting her players do what they do best. If the Fever continue down this path, don't be surprised if Caitlin Clark starts looking for a way out. No superstar wants to waste their prime playing for a coach who doesn't get them. White has shown time and time again that she's not the right coach for this team, and if Indiana doesn't act fast, they'll be wasting Clark's greatness, just like she's done at every other stop. It's time for change, before it's too late. The clock is ticking for the Indiana Fever. Stephanie White's coaching career is on the brink of completely derailing this team's potential, and it's up to the front office to make a choice before it's too late. With players like Caitlin Clark, Lexi Hull, and Sophie Cunningham, the Fever have the pieces to build a championship contender, but only if they have a coach who actually knows how to maximize that talent. White's reign has been filled with poor decisions, a lack of adaptability, and a stubbornness that's costing the team. If the Fever don't fire her soon, they risk wasting the prime years of one of the most talented players the league has ever seen. The message is clear. The Fever need a new direction, one that's focused on nurturing their star players and building a winning culture. Will the Fever front office make the right call? Or will they continue down the path of mediocrity under White's leadership? Only time will tell, but one thing is certain, the clock is ticking on Caitlin Clark's prime, and it's up to the team to make sure they don't waste it.